Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Ren and I make videos a couple of times a week about books and fandom things, but in June I am trying to make videos every day to celebrate Pride Month. And I didn't make a video yesterday and I had a couple of days. Yesterday I actually had a heart monitor put on and I thought it would be fine and I thought I'd be able to film with it because I am making these videos, like I'm trying to bulk film some stuff but I am making some on the days. I had a heart monitor put on and it was a lot more bulky and a lot more uncomfortable than I thought it was going to be, so I didn't film as well because it was hot and it just, they're not fun. But it's been taken off. I only had it for 24 hours, so today I am back and I thought that I could do a video. And I have a plan of what I wanted to do in Pride Month, and a couple of those were book reviews and book discussions, and today I'm going to talk about my favourite book ever. I do talk about this book a lot on my channel, but I've never really done like a proper sit down, like review, discussion, and to be honest, I'm not going to do that today because it would be really long. What I'm going to do is 5 reasons why you should absolutely read this book. I mean, it has its own shelf. For those that don't know, it's Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin and Larry Sands. It has its own shelf, it has a little frame that my friend Emily got me, and then this is all my editions. So this is my edition that I'm tabbing and painting and making notes in, my French edition, my Spanish edition, my limited edition new UK edition with the blue sprayed edges. This is my first ever hardback, which is like a first edition. And then I have my signed edition from Benjamin Louis Sands himself. And I also have this edition, which is the new UK edition without the blue sprayed edges, which was recently sent to me by Simon & Schuster, which I'm very grateful for. As you can imagine, when Simon & Schuster got in touch with me about this, I was very excited. If you have been on my channel for a while, you will know how much this book means to me. It changed my life. I got the book in 2014, I was going on holiday, went online, was trying to find some books, and I literally saw Aristotle and Dante, and at first I genuinely thought it was non-fiction. I had been at uni like a year at that point, just a year. I just finished my first year of uni and I did psychology, but one of my modules was like philosophy and psychology and kind of how they tie together, so I'd done a lot about Aristotle and Dante. This is obviously not the Aristotle and Dante that I'd been learning about at university, but I ordered the book. The cover is gorgeous. It's like this book was meant to be in my life. I bought it on a whim. I literally didn't even read what it was about. I just saw the cover, saw the names and bought it and ordered it. And then it came, I read the back, I realised it was fiction. It sounded really cool. I took it on holiday with me, was sat by the pool, thought I would read a couple of chapters and then I'd go swim. I read the entire book in one sitting. I didn't move from that spot by the pool. I literally sat there for hours to the point where I got sunburn, which was not great. And yeah, it just changed my life. I remember sort of looking up from it afterwards and thinking, what am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to move from it? Like, how am I supposed to exist having this book finished? Like it was like my entire life shifted in that moment. Like it shifted in a way that I can't quite put into words. I can't properly put it into words how my life shifted reading this book. It just changed everything. I have never related to a character the way that I have related to Ari. There were thoughts in his head that existed in my head that I never thought anybody else would get, and yet they were there and they were just put straight, just there. For those that don't know, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe focuses on 15-year-old Aristotle Mendoza, who lives in El Paso in Texas, and it is set in 1987. He's bored, he's a teenager, he's trying to figure out who he is, who his family is, dealing with lots of stuff, and he goes to the local pool and he can't swim, and at the local pool he meets 15-year-old Dante Quintana, who offers to teach him to swim. And it is everything from their friendship, their relationship, learning who you are, accepting who you are, coming into yourself, growing up, being a teenager, realizing that your family, this is like the weird thing that felt really personal and something that I really understood, is like he realizes that his family, like his parents, are people as well as being parents, and they had lives before him, and learning that, and then what he's dealing with his family, and then Dante coming into his life and friendship and kind of opening up not only to himself but other people. It's just phenomenal. So here's 5 reasons why you should read Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. Number 1, the writing. Never have I read a book that has a writing style quite like this one. It is such an interesting way of telling a story, and at first it just comes across as a book that is written. It's a young adult book, and you read it and it's not written in like epistolary form. I mean, there are some letters from Dante that are at some point, but it's not written in epistolary form, but it's written in a really, really clever way in which Ari tells you only what he wants to tell himself, and you as the reader only see what he wants himself to see. So it's not even that he's keeping stuff from the reader intentionally, it's that he's keeping it from himself, and it is done so well. So there is a moment, I will not spoil it, but something happens and Dante asks Ari, did it work? And Ari says no, and on that page you see nothing about Ari's thoughts. You don't see what he's thinking, you don't see his reaction, it is just text, because it's Ari's perspective. So we're not seeing what Dante's thinking and how he's feeling, but what we're just seeing is he is just showing us, Ari is just showing us the conversation. Did it work? No. Okay. You know, it's very like that. And it's not until later on in the book where things are revealed and you find out how he actually did feel about that situation, but he didn't want to admit it to himself. So it isn't that he's keeping it from the reader to keep it from the reader, but in his own head he knows. It's that he's also wanting to keep that from himself, and he's not wanting to admit it to himself. There are so many different instances of that throughout this book. Like, we see so many different parts of that, and it's such a clever way of telling a story, because it doesn't, in my opinion, quite fall under the unreliable narrator storytelling. It doesn't quite come under that, but it does have like similar vibes to that kind of thing. And like I said, he's not intentionally keeping it from the reader. I mean, he is intentionally keeping it, but also because he wants to keep it from himself. He doesn't want to admit to himself what is happening in his head and in his life. Number 2, it is a phenomenal book about coming of age and coming into your own and learning about yourself and who you are. The thing that I really, really loved about this is that we are presented with 2 boys who are from similar backgrounds, and then sort of learning who they are. There are similarities between them. It shows that you can have that similarity, and you can be from a similar background to someone, or you can identify the same way as someone else, but those things can be entirely different, and your family and the way you perceive the world and who you are as a person can entirely influence that. And I think that's what's so good about it, is that Benjamin does such a phenomenal job at showing us both of these boys and the way that they're coming into their own and the way that they're learning about themselves and how that differs, because we obviously do not see it from Dante's perspective, but we see it from Ari's perspective, and we see the way that Dante is dealing with things and the way that Dante talks about things, and then compare that to the way Ari is, and he's so closed off, whereas Dante is much more open. And then it's just a very interesting exploration of the way that the similar things can impact people in such different ways. And I think that that's done so well in this book, and we get to see such interesting explorations of coming of age and learning who you are, which I love. Number 3, it is a phenomenal LGBTQIA+ novel. It is, for those that don't know, I didn't know, it's gay as hell. And it is done phenomenally. Like I said, it's my favourite book ever, but it is also my favourite representation of coming out to yourself, not even to other people, to yourself, and learning who you are. There is a moment that honestly constantly breaks my heart involving Ari, and like there's just this helplessness of that he has been lying to himself, he has been lying to everybody as to who he is, but mainly to himself. And I think that's what this does so well, is it's not necessarily about coming out to other people, it's not how do we tell other people, which obviously is a very big thing and a very scary thing and a very big thing to do. It's telling that to yourself, which I think is arguably one of the hardest things to do when it comes to your identity and who you are. And that comes across so well in this. It is my favorite book in that sense as well, is I think that it does such a good way of showing how you can accept that yourself and how you can deal with that yourself, and the differences before and after, and how you feel as a person before that and after that, I think is just so well done. And I think that it's such phenomenal representation and so good. And obviously I am not a Mexican American person, so I cannot speak for that representation, but from what I know from people who are, that is also phenomenal representation. And Benjamin Lewis Sands is also a Mexican American and also lives in El Paso in Texas, so it is very true to that, and the representation and the stories that it tells is so good. Number 4, the exploration of family and friendship is very, very good. Like I said a little bit before, there is a bit in this where he talks about his parents were people before they were parents, which is true, but it's always really interesting when parents talk about lives that they had before you were born, and you think, oh my god, like there are people in my parents' lives who have known my parents for longer than I have known my parents, and they're my parents. They did things and lived before I lived, and I don't think that's like spoken about enough, which is weird because it's such an obvious thing, but it's not spoken about enough. And like how much it goes into Ari's head is what I think makes this book so good. It feels so personal and feels like something which you can really kind of see parts of yourself in his head, because it's so personal to him, despite the fact that he is keeping things from himself and from the reader. But the explorations of friendship and family are done so well, like the different family dynamics and like his extended family and his heritage and learning about that, and kind of the expectations, and then also with his sisters. And my brother is a lot older than me. I think there's like a very similar age gap between Ari and his sisters and me and my brother, and we have I like so much of that. I was like, yes, and not many people talk about it in books and stuff. You don't really have large age gaps when it comes to siblings, but that's all I've ever known, so that was really cool. And like there's so many different family dynamics and so many different friendship dynamics, I think, in this, which are done in such a specific way that they're not just sort of general dynamics that you see in a lot of books, which obviously does reflect quite a lot of the population. There are a lot more kind of specifics, and like the difference between Dante being an only child and Ari kind of feeling like a pseudo only child because their age gap is so different. And then he talks about his family in prison, and because his brother is in prison, and he talks about that and the effect that that's had on his mum and dad. It also talks about his dad being in the war and the PTSD from that, and how that changed him, and how he doesn't know what his dad was like before that because he never knew him, but obviously his mum did, and how did she fall in love with him, and like all of these different things, and it goes into such amazing detail. This book is so hard to explain, other than the fact that for me to say it's my favourite book, which is why I don't think I've ever done a sit down review. I will do one once I finish my whole annotation colouring notes thing. I think I will do like a whole really long video where I really go in to every aspect of this book and like my favourite quotes and my favourite parts, and like I'm really excited to do it, and I'm excited to finish that book. Quite personal, so I won't show all of it, but yeah. But I just, the way that is explored in this, I think is just so different, and something that I really hadn't seen a lot of. So I think that it's done so well. And number 5 is that now is your chance to read this book, because if you haven't picked it up yet, if you have heard me talk about it all these years and you still haven't picked it up, or you've been meaning to and you haven't, now is the time, because in October there is going to be a sequel, and the sequel is called Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World, and it comes out on October 12th, and it's set directly after this. And I don't want to spoil this and tell you what happens in the sequel, but if you have read this and you want to know about the sequel, I made a whole video where I reacted to the cover and everything, which I'll link down below. It looks like this. It's so pretty. I'm so excited. So you should read this book now, because in a couple of months we're gonna have a sequel. I've never been more excited for a book than I am the Ari and Dante sequel. So now is your time to read Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. It's also going to be a film. You should, like, that's another reason, bonus reason as well. It's also going to be a film. It's being adapted into a film by H. Alberto. I did a review of her book, which I will link down below as well. Literally the nicest human being going, and literally the best person to turn this in to a movie, and I'm beyond excited for that. There's your bonus reason for why you should read Ari and Dante. So yes, that is today's video. It wouldn't be Pride Month if I didn't talk about how much this book means to me. And like I said, I realized I hadn't ever done like a set video about it, like a main like video about it, actually talking about it and reviewing it and discussing stuff. So I thought that I would use Pride Month to actually talk about it. Like I said, if you guys are new here, then I make videos a couple of times a week about books and fandom things. So if you want to stick around and join us, feel free to hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell. And as usual, all the links to my other social medias and also my Stranger Things podcast. It is called Hawkins Do Copy, and I co-host it with my friend Emily, and we talk about all things Stranger Things. Is also in the description as well if you want to come check that out. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're doing really, 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 really well, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you.